One of the questions that I often get from really incredible leaders are, how can I be even more incredible? How can I make it to that next level? And that is going to be the topic of today's conversation. It's going to be all about, how do we close the gap between where we are and where we want to be? And so I want to welcome you back into another episode of Bending Time with Daryl Sweeney. And today I want to talk about closing the gap, and I want to do it through a story. Many of you know that my oldest son plays hockey. You'll see some videos, see some of the things I may share around the internet, but a lot of you may not know how it all started. And it was when just a couple years ago, he decided he wanted to play hockey. And as a dad who knew nothing about hockey, said, well, it made sense to me that we should learn to skate. And so we did the Learn to Skates. He did the entry-level programs. He got pretty good, and he was excited about playing hockey. So much so that he asked to do a summer training program that was offered at the rink. And we go out there. I'm excited. I think it's going to be more of the same, right? Some guys who want to knock the puck around, who want to skate a little bit. We're just going to have some summer fun around hockey. And any of you parents who have been around a group of people, sometimes we can read energy that our kids can't always see right away. And that's what happened when I went in the locker room. I go in the locker room, I'm tying Samuel's skates, and I'm watching the other kids and the other parents come in. I'm watching as they're hugging and they're high-fiving, and everybody knows everybody. And it suddenly registered that these weren't kids learning to skate. These weren't kids who are just getting into hockey. These kids play, and they've played for a long time. I don't say anything to Samuel. All my fears are right there on the surface, but I'm trying my best to hold them in. Samuel gets out on the rink, and it was everything I thought it would be. The coach comes out, he blows his whistle, says, look, we're going to do this skating drill and this skating drill and this skating drill. And first we're going to go backwards, and then we're going to go forwards, and then I'm watching, and I'm freaked out for him. One kid after another kid after another kid is just flying through these drills. And Samuel gets out there, and he's struggling. And he fell in love with it. He was so far behind the next newest kid or lowest skilled kid that it wasn't even funny. But he got better over the summer. And when it came time to sign up for hockey that season, he was invited to be on a travel team. And I told the coach, I was just going to put him in the recreational league. This is our first time. We don't know anything. And he said, I think he can do it. And if he loves hockey, this will really serve him. He'll get a lot more ice time. So we said yes. Samuel was at the very bottom of the roster. The very bottom of the roster. And I would watch as he would show up to games. He would do a little work, but he was just so happy to be on the ice. And there was a gap. There was a real gap between where he was and the next lowest skilled player on the team. There was a gap. And he was just so happy to be on the team that I don't think he minded the gap. I don't think he noticed the gap. Now, many of you have heard me say that one of my favorite quotes, it's a Spanish proverb that goes like this: God said, take what you want and pay for it. I knew that Samuel loved playing travel hockey, but there was a gap between where he was with this team that needed players and where he would be next year when he had to go through a tryout. And halfway through the season, I let him know that. I said, Samuel, I know how much you love hockey, and I want you to be able to keep playing. But if that's going to happen, you have got to show up in a way that the coaches want to invite you to a team, that the coaches say he's not only skilled enough, but he's ready. And right now, that's not the kid I'm seeing. I let him know that many of these kids started skating 3 and 4 years before we did, and that we've got to find ways to close the gap. And we had an incredible conversation. There may have been some yelling. There may have been some tears, but all in all, it served him because he became aware of the gap that was his to close. And I give Samuel all the credit in the world. This kid started working on his stick handling. He started working on his skating. He started to ask to go up for extra practices. He did summer camps. He put in the work. And I'm really proud as a dad to say that he made the team the following year and was a leader on that team. And now he's playing at an even higher level on an even better team. But it's because he did the work to close the gap. So why am I telling you a hockey story? Because I think the hockey story shows the opportunity that all of us have. That if you're a leader out there and there's a gap for you to close, you're looking at that next promotion, that next opportunity, it's staring you in the face. What's the gap and how are you going to close it? If you have team members who you know that there's more opportunities for them to grow and evolve and develop, how are they closing the gap? And I'm here to tell you that, like Samuel, it may not happen in practice. Just showing up and doing the thing may not be enough. So what are you doing outside of practice? What are you doing outside of the 9 to 5 to close the gap? Are you reading books? Watching podcasts? Engaging with other leaders? Finding ways to see new things and challenge your thinking? Identifying what are the blind spots you have that are getting in the way of you finding that next level, you getting that next promotion? Are you getting no's in interviews and opportunities? And what are you doing to close the gap? Now, obviously, as a coach, a lot of the people I work with are closing the gap through the work that we do together. It's one way to close the gap. Right? Things, and I love designing containers and opportunities. I love sending people resources. I love curious, hungry people that want to achieve things that matter in the world, asking me, Daryl, what else can I do? How can I close the gap between where I want to be or what I want to create and where I am now? And I'm really happy to say that SCG Leadership Institute is a brilliant way to close the gap. I watched it with the 16 leaders who walked through the program last year. I'm still hearing stories of what's different for them in their teams and in their organizations and themselves because of the work they did through that 6-month program. My favorite stories are the promotions. Right? People tell me about the new role they're stepping into, that their leader is asking them to take on new responsibility, the new money they're making because they've closed the gap, because they said yes to programs that would challenge them, that would push them, that would open them up to new opportunities and help them see things that they couldn't see before. These are some of the ways I help the people in my world close the gap. So what about you? What are you doing to close the gaps that exist in your world, in your work, in your life? And guys, I'm not talking about just professionally. What about personally? What about in the parent you are? What about in the partner you are? What about in the friend you are? What about with your health? I want to invite you to slow down and look at the opportunities in your life. Look at where there are gaps, personally or professionally, that you want to close. And then get really honest with yourself. Am I doing the least I can do? And the gap may not be getting wider, but it's certainly not getting smaller. Or am I actively looking for ways to close that distance? To be a contributing member to the team, just like Samuel. Samuel ended up leading his team last year. He led those guys. He ended up scoring 40 goals. He was a forward. He was a big part of that team, and none of that would have been possible had he not taken the steps to close the gap. He's now moved up an age group, and he's a contributing member there. His team just won a championship last weekend, and I told him he didn't score any goals in the final, but him doing the dirty work, him putting in the effort, him challenging and showing up the way he did, he contributed to 2 of the 3 goals scored in the championship. What put him in a position to do those things is all the work he did to close the gap. Where can you follow Samuel's example and close the gap on what you're up to and you're passionate about in the world? If it's professionally, if you're a leader out there, I highly, highly encourage you checking out SCG Leadership Institute. Come in and see what we're up to. See how we're helping leaders not only close the gaps, but positioning them to help their teams close the gap. You can check that out at darylsweeney.com. Look for SCG Leadership Institute across the top, and there's a ton of information in there. And if that appeals to you, if you like the idea of positioning yourself as the most powerful leader you can be, and someone who can help his people perform at higher and higher levels, that can increase the workability in the team, that can drive results at all new levels, create a conversation with me and let's talk about it. I'd love to tell you about what we're doing in that space. And if you're a senior leader and you're asking yourself, how do I develop my people? How can I bring my leaders along? How can I help them evolve into being the best version of themselves so that they can create at even higher levels? Let's talk about how SCG Leadership Institute can support you in developing your people so that you can move the entire organization forward. Hopefully this episode was helpful for you. If there's somebody in your world you know would be served by thinking about the gaps in their world and what it would look like to close them, forward this on, send this their way. And if there are gaps in your world you're looking to close, share them with me. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know what closing those gaps look like. I love those conversations. Comment below, send me a DM, shoot me an email. You know how to get me. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time.